The Praetorian Guard, Chapter 18, The Breach. The celebratory mood hung thick in the air as John and his team gathered at one of the quieter, more discreet restaurants near the outskirts of the capital. After the private promotion ceremony, the Shadows of the Night team decided to step out of the shadows for just one evening. For a brief moment, John allowed himself to relax. His new insignia, marking his rank as once a lieutenant, gleamed under the dim lights of the restaurant, a testament to the years of service and sacrifice that had brought him to this point. Mark, with his usual cocky grin, raised a glass.
"To Lieutenant Steele, the man of the hour,"
he said, his voice carrying just a hint of mock formality. John rolled his eyes but couldn't help but smile.
"I'm still the same guy, you know. No need for all the pomp."
Sarah leaned back in her chair, a rare smile playing on her lips.
"Well, until you start ordering us around, we'll treat you the same. But you've earned this, John."
The team chuckled, the camaraderie thick between them. For a few hours, it felt like they were just a group of soldiers, unwinding after another successful mission. The tension of their dangerous lives seemed to melt away, replaced by the warmth of shared memories and the promise of what lay ahead. But the reprieve was short-lived. In the middle of a toast, a familiar, urgent beep echoed from each of their communication devices, cutting through the light atmosphere like a knife. Jones' hand instinctively went to his wrist where his device sat, and he saw the message flash across the screen.
"Urgent. All personnel report to headquarters immediately."
The laughter died instantly. They exchanged quick, knowing glances. No one needed to speak. They all rose in unison, their bodies moving with the well-honed precision of trained operatives. The check was paid swiftly, and within minutes they were on their way back to headquarters, the celebration forgotten. When they arrived at the headquarters of the Shadows of the Night, the normally quiet underground facility buzzed with tension. Jones' team made their way down the cold corridors until they entered the command room. There, General Thomas Hoke, the enigmatic leader of the Shadows, stood waiting for them. His expression was as hard as stone, his piercing eyes fixed on John as the team entered the room.
"General."
John greeted him, standing at attention. Hoke didn't waste any time.
"We've had a security breach."
The words hung in the air, sharp and dangerous. Jones' stomach tightened, and he could feel the shift in the room's energy. His teammates exchanged brief, concerned glances, but no one spoke.
"Someone tried to access your personal data files,"
Hoke said, his eyes locking on John. Jones' mind raced. His personal data files, it wasn't just about who he was. It could compromise the entire unit, exposing their missions, their locations, their occasions. This wasn't just a simple hack. This was an attack on the Shadows themselves. Before John could respond, Marta, the team's cyber expert, immediately sprang into action. She slid her tablet from her bag and began typing rapidly, her fingers a blur on the screen.
"Do we know who or where the signal came from?"
Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the situation. Hoke crossed his arms, his jaw set.
"Not yet. Our cyber team has been working on it, but whoever is behind this is good. They covered their tracks well, but I've seen enough breaches to know when someone is trying to buy time."
Marta's eyes stayed glued to the screen, her brow furrowed in concentration.
"They're good,"
she muttered, her voice laced with frustration.
"But I'm better."
Hoke's voice cut through the tension.
"Equip yourselves. The moment we locate the source of the signal, you need to move in."
The team nodded and hurried to the armory. As John strapped on his tactical vest and checked his weapons, his mind remained focused on the implications of the breach. Who would target him, specifically? It wasn't just about his promotion. It had to be something deeper. Someone with knowledge of the Shadows. 3 hours later, Marta finally broke the silence in the command room.
"Got it,"
she said, a small, satisfied smile on her face, as she handed the tablet to Sarah.
"The signal originated from an industrial neighborhood not far from here. Whoever they are, they're smart, but they've underestimated me."
The team gathered around as Sarah studied the location on the map.
"It's an abandoned warehouse in the industrial zone. Looks like whoever did this didn't have a lot of time to cover their tracks."
Marta nodded.
"They realized I was following their signal. I'd bet they've already moved on, but we might find something useful."
Hoke stepped forward.
"Move in fast. If they're still there, capture them. If not, see what you can recover. We can't allow this breach to go unanswered.
The team, now fully equipped, moved out quickly, their sleek black ship cutting through the night air as they raced toward the industrial area. The tension in the ship was palpable, each member of the team lost in their thoughts. John's mind raced with the implications of what they were about to face. Someone had tried to access his files, his life, his missions. That meant they knew more about the shadows than they should. Sun, the team's explosives expert, broke the silence.
This feels off,
he said quietly.
Whoever they are, they've got a good understanding of how we operate. They moved fast once they knew we were onto them.
Sarah nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon.
We may be dealing with someone on the inside.
Mark, always quick to inject a bit of humor, leaned back in his seat.
Nothing like a little internal betrayal to spice things up, huh?
John didn't smile. The idea of a traitor in their ranks was one he wasn't ready to accept, but it couldn't be ignored. When they arrived at the industrial zone, the team moved with swift, silent precision. The warehouse was dark, its windows shattered and walls crumbling with age. Weapons raised, they entered the building, their movements synchronized as they cleared each room. But as they progressed deeper into the structure, it became clear that the place was empty. Whoever had been here was long gone.
Looks like they left in a hurry,
Marta observed, her tablet scanning the area for any remaining data signals. The room was littered with discarded boxes, scraps of paper, and equipment that looked like it had been hastily abandoned. Sun knelt down and picked up a small fragment of wire.
They packed light and fast,
he said, his eyes narrowing.
They knew we'd be coming.
Marta's fingers danced across her tablet.
I'm pulling up what I can, but whoever was here wiped most of their traces. We're not dealing with amateurs.
Sarah's gaze swept the room, her instincts telling her that something was wrong.
They knew we'd find this place,
she said.
They've been one step ahead.
Sun stood up, crossing his arms.
That means one thing. They know how we operate, and if they know that much...
He glanced at John, his meaning clear.
They could have someone on the inside.
John finished the thought, the weight of the possibility settling over him. Suddenly, Mark, who had been searching one of the corners of the room, straightened up, holding something in his hand.
Maybe not as good as they think,
he said, holding up a small, crumpled piece of paper. His sharp eyes focused on a few droplets of blood smeared across it. He turned it over and grinned.
Looks like someone had a little accident on their way out. We've got blood. That means we've got DNA.
Marta smiled, stepping forward.
Good catch, Mark. We can extract the DNA and run it through the database.
Sarah glanced at John.
This might give us exactly what we need.
John felt the tension in his chest tighten. Whoever had been here had tried to access his files. They had left this trail. And soon they would know exactly who it was.
Let's hope we find them before they strike again,
John said quietly, his eyes scanning the empty warehouse. The hunt was on. The atmosphere in the abandoned warehouse was heavy with tension as Marta pulled out a sleek, compact device from her tactical pocket. She carefully took the blood-stained piece of paper that Mark had found and slid it into the device's input slot. A series of lights blinked to life on the device, its internal sensors humming softly as it began its work.
By the time we get back to headquarters, we'll have the DNA result,
Marta said confidently, her eyes locked on the small screen as the device worked its magic. She gave a nod to the rest of the team, her fingers tapping a pattern on the side of the machine, setting the analysis to maximum speed. Sarah's gaze swept the team, the urgency in her eyes clear.
Let's move out. We don't have time to waste.
The team nodded in silent agreement, weapons at the ready as they exited the building. The night air was cold and sharp as they boarded their shuttle. John took one last glance at the empty warehouse before they lifted off, wondering just how close they'd come to catching the person responsible for breaching his files. As the shuttle raced back to the shadows of the night headquarters, the tension inside was palpable. John sat quietly, the hum of the engines filling his ears, his mind spinning with possibilities. Arriving at the headquarters, the team moved quickly through the secure corridors, their faces set in determination. The heavy doors slid open to reveal the underground facility's main command center, where a group of analysts and technicians were already busy, their screens filled with streams of data and surveillance feeds. One of the doctors stationed at the command center, a tall man with a serious expression, stepped forward as the team entered. He handed a sealed envelope to Sarah.
"This contains the preliminary DNA analysis from the sample you collected,"
he said, his voice steady and professional. Sarah took the envelope with a nod and quickly opened it, pulling out the sheet of results. Her eyes scanned the information, her expression unreadable. Then, without a word, she handed the sheet over to Marta.
"Marta, cross-check this DNA result against the database,"
Sarah instructed, her voice calm, but with an undercurrent of urgency.
"I want to know who we're dealing with."
Marta, already in motion, took the sheet and started inputting the data into her tablet. Her fingers danced over the screen with practiced precision, her eyes flicking back and forth as lines of code and digital sequences filled the display. The seconds ticked by in silence, everyone watching her with bated breath. 10 minutes later, Marta's eyes lit up as the data results appeared on her screen. She glanced up at Sarah, her face a mixture of satisfaction and grim determination, before handing the tablet over to her. Sarah took the tablet, the room falling silent as she read the information aloud.
"Name: Ibrahim Valos. Profession: mercenary. Status: wanted across the Empire for multiple high-profile assassinations, sabotage, and intelligence theft. Last known location: entered the capital under a false identity. Origin: Varos 3.
A murmur went through the team. Joan's mind raced. Varos 3 was a notorious hotbed for mercenaries and shadow operatives, a place where criminals operated beyond the reach of traditional law enforcement. Marta, with a glint in her eye, was already working again.
"I'm running a search on all surveillance cameras in the stations connected to the routes from Varos 3,
she said, her voice focused and intense.
"Let's see if we can track his movements." "Good,"
Sarah said, nodding sharply.
"We need to find out where he went after arriving here. Everyone, be ready. Once we have a confirmed location, we move out immediately."
The team nodded in silent agreement, their movements efficient as they prepared for whatever lay ahead. Joan's jaw tightened as he holstered his weapons, the gravity of the situation clear in his mind. Ibrahim Valos wasn't just a rogue operator, he was a threat to everything the Shadows stood for. 20 minutes later, Marta suddenly straightened, her eyes glued to the monitor. A slow smile spread across her face as she raised her head.
"I found him,"
she announced, her voice cutting through the tension in the room like a blade.
"He's currently heading towards the Pax Range sector."
Sarah took the tablet from Marta, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the location.
"The Pax Range sector,"
she muttered, almost to herself.
"It's on the edge of the Empire, an isolated zone, perfect for setting up an undetectable base. No wonder he chose that place."
She looked up at the team, her eyes hard with resolve.
"All right, everyone, gear up. We leave in 10 minutes. We're not letting this guy slip through our fingers. Let's show him what happens when you mess with the shadows of the night."
Without wasting a second, the team dispersed, heading to their respective stations to retrieve their gear. The urgency in the air was palpable. Each member of the unit moved with a purpose, knowing that they were about to engage in a high-stakes operation. 10 minutes later, the team was suited up and ready. They boarded the sleek, invisible ship that was a hallmark of their unit's advanced technology. The vessel was equipped with the latest stealth capabilities, allowing them to move undetected through even the most heavily monitored sectors of the Empire. John sat in his seat, securing his plasma swords and checking the charge on his sidearm. Across from him, Sarah was already running through the mission brief, her eyes cold and focused. Mark cracked his knuckles, the familiar grin returning to his face.
"I've got a feeling this Ibrahim guy is in for a surprise. He thought he was clever, but he's about to meet the real experts."
Sun, silent as always, gave a nod of agreement, his eyes never leaving the tactical display in front of him. As the ship lifted off, its engines running almost silently. John felt the familiar rush of adrenaline coursing through his veins. They were heading for the Pax range sector, where Ibrahim Valos was hiding, unaware that his hunters were closing in. Sarah's voice crackled over the comms, steady and unwavering.
Remember, Valos isn't just another mercenary. He's skilled, and he's already managed to evade us once. We go in fast, we go in hard, and we bring him down before he can escape again.
John's eyes met Sarah's, a silent understanding passing between them. They knew the stakes. They knew what failure could mean.
Let's get this done,
John said, his voice calm, but his heart pounding with the thrill of the hunt. As the invisible ship cut through the darkness of space, its sights set on the distant Pax range sector, the shadows of the night were ready to do what they did best.